Welcome to part 7 of Introduction to 3D Studio Max, Building the Desk Scene. And in this tutorial, we're going to model out the floor, the walls, a window, and possibly some extra things in the desk. So let's go ahead and go to the Create panel. In fact, actually, let me make sure I have everything in my scene selected, move it up, go to my box, click and drag, and go to my Move tool, set the XYZ to 0, 0. Let's go to the Modify panel. And this room is roughly 10 feet by 10 feet by, I'm just going to give it a negative height value. Something like that. Doesn't matter about the height. I'm never going to see it. I'm going to select everything in the scene except for the floor. So just my desk. And I'm going to go Alt-W. My side viewport, I'm going to zoom into the floor area. And my front viewport, I'm going to use as a move to move it straight down. Looks like there. All right, so now my desk is on the floor. Let me go ahead and move it into the corner. Something like that. Okay, perfect. All right, so let's go ahead and create the walls. Actually, let's do the texture on the floor. So I'm going to select the floor. Let's call it floor. And go to my material library. Select a blank material. I'm going to name it floor. It looks like I had already done that on accident. So this one's floor. I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop it to my floor. And let's give it a diffuse material, or sorry, texture, bitmap. I already found a floor, wood floor texture. I went online, typed in free wood floor. I shouldn't have to show you that again. I also created a bump map, a black and white image map of the floor for the bump. So I'm going to select this one first, click open, and drag and drop it to my scene. Let me actually come out of it. It should already be applied. I'm just going to have to turn this on. There we go. I am going to add the bump map now. So go to bump, none, bitmap, go all the way down to wood floor, open, and go to the up arrow. So you can see here, it's pretty nice, probably a little too much. So let's say half that, 15. Now let's look at the floor again. Let's add a UVW Map modifier. And let's go to switch it to box, open up the gizmo, make sure rotate snap is on, go to my rotate, and rotate 90 degrees. There we go. That's exactly the direction of my grain. I can definitely tile it, so I can say the tile of 2. That's too much. Let's go 1.3 by 1.3. That looks a little bit better. Or I can use the length and the width settings as well. Okay, so this is set, bump map, floor is put in place. Go ahead and close this for now. All right, let's create the walls. I'm going to go to the create panel, and instead of using a box this time, I'm going to use the AEC extended wall. Okay, now you can choose how it's going to create right off the bat. So if I got left, center, and right. If I did a center, it would create the center of the wall right here. So half the wall would be on the floor, the other half wouldn't. If I did right, it would either create the wall completely on the floor or completely off. I think it's supposed to be left because I want it completely off. All right. So I'm going to stick with left for now. I'm going to make sure my width and height settings are set. So it's 0.5 inches by 8 feet. That's fine for the height. So I'm going to go up to my 3D snap, turn it on, make sure it's set to vertex only. And roll over vertex, click, and it starts creating a wall. Click on this vertex and click. Right click to cancel. Or sorry, to end the creation, not to cancel, but to end the creation. So you can see here, I have my 2 walls. I could have kept going, but it makes it difficult to keep working in the scene if my walls are in my way. So that looks good. My height looks good. And because I did create it on the left, it's sitting outside the floor. So that's definitely good. Now, why I chose the wall option to create is because when we create windows, it's going to automatically cut a hole in the wall for us. We don't have to use a boolean. So let's go ahead and go to the create panel and change it to windows. All right. Now you have lots of options, and let's just try a sliding window first. So I'm going to click on sliding, come up to my 3D snap, and also check edges and segments. Close this. So let's say right about here, I'm going to click and drag to create the width, and then I'm going to drag to the other wall to create the depth, and I'm going to drag up, drag down to create the height. Okay, so obviously a window is not that large, but you can see here it's already cutting into the wall. So let's play with the settings. So I'm going to go to the modify panel, and I'm going to decrease the height because it's definitely not 8 feet. And I'm going to just play with this. Well, let me move it first. Let me turn off 3D snap. Okay, so move it up. You can see, like I said, it's cutting a hole. If I click this open button, you can see that I can actually open it. So let's go ahead and rotate this guy, because my windows rotate or open side to side, and actually it opens the other way. And I can position this now. Let's go ahead and increase the width. The height actually begins, it's actually roughly the right height, maybe a little bit taller. Yeah, something like that. And it's right at my desk levels where the base of it is. So let's, that's fine. Something like that. So like I said, you can play with the opening and closing of this. Looking good. All right, and you can see, like I said, it already cut a hole. So let's actually play with now. Of course, you can use any of the other windows, but let's add a material to it. So I'm going to go to the material modify panel, or the material editor, sorry. Let me click on a blank material. I'm going to click on the word standard and do multi-sub-object because it's already got IDs set to this thing. So multi-sub-object, I'm going to say disregard old material. And let's go ahead and set standard in here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and apply, let me go to the top stack, apply this material to the window. I'll call it window. Whoops. All right, so what did it change? Okay, so the gray changed the outer wall window here. Most of this stuff is white, so I can use the same material across the board. So let me just switch this material to a white base, and it's slightly shiny. So it has a glare to it. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the back to the top. I'm going to drag this option down. I'm going to say it's an instance for now. That's correct. That's not correct. So I'm going to drag and drop an empty slot here. Click on this one, create a different material because this is going to be the glass. It's definitely not white. And I can go ahead and set the value to black. And it's definitely shiny. It's glass. And the opacity all the way down to, let's say, 4, 40, 30, something like that. Let's go ahead and increase the, so we have this set. Let's go back to the top. And I can go back to my standard. Whoops, didn't want to click on it. Click and drag it down to number 4, instance. That's correct, 5, instance. Okay, because my whole window area is white. They just painted it white. All right, so that's done with the window. And of course, you can do whatever you want. I can actually come in here and name this white window material. White window. Click the up arrow, and I can say window glass. Click the up arrow. Okay. So that's all done. And the wall. Let's go ahead and create a material for the wall. So I'll go to the next one. And let's go, it's a standard, that's fine. My walls are slightly, they're almost white. They're almost like a yellow white. Yeah, that's pretty much it right there. There's no specularity in my walls. So let me click and drag this to the walls. And there is a little bit of bump, very minute. So I'm going to set the bump to, let's say, 2. I'm going to click on none, and I'm going to add speckle. Click open. And hit the up arrow, turn it on, see if I can see it in the viewport. Probably can't, not something like this. So let me go ahead and select the wall and go to, let me just zoom in here and hit render, see what it looks like. Yeah, it's barely, you can barely see the noise, the speckle noise. Okay, so that's good. Let's create the shutters now. So I'm going to go to the create panel and the standard objects. Let's go box. And first I'm actually going to move my window up a little bit. just a little bit higher than the desk. Okay, that's good. And I'm going to go to box, and let's click and drag Alt W. A box to be roughly the same width as my window. Just like that. Let me go Alt W to come out of this view again. And I'm going to move this guy all the way to the top of my window. Okay. So let's go to the modify panel. I know, let's see here, we have, what's the width of this window? Let's give it an actual 5 feet 4 inches. Okay, let's do the same thing for the box. In fact, what's the height? Let's do 3 feet 11 inches. There we go. So now I should have done that earlier. So I'm going to come to here, and this is going to be exactly 5 feet. What was it? 5 feet 4 inches. 5 feet 4 inches. Okay, so the width is going to be about 2 inches. And the height is going to be 0.08 or 5. Let's try that. No, that's way too much. Let's go 0.008. Much better. Okay, we'll call this blind 1, or 01 I should say, because it's going to create a bunch of these. In fact, actually, because it's going to probably go in the 200s, let's go blind 001. All right, so I'm going to hit, let's not save it yet. Let's go ahead and move it over against the wall. It's probably good. And let's make copies all the way down. So I'm going to go to my viewport here. I'm going to hold down Shift. And I'm going to watch the Y position when I'm creating this duplicate. So I'm going to hold down Shift. And I roughly want to go down about 1 inch. Yeah, that's probably good. Okay, so it's a full inch. I'm going to click, it's blind 2, instance, copy, click OK. Oh wait, sorry, I got to make sure it's an instance. Wasn't paying attention. So let me go down to, again, 1 inch, that's good. Instance, yep. And the number of copies we want to make is, let's say, 100. Click OK. And that was way too many, so about half that. I'm going to undo that. Again, move it down to about 1 inch. Okay, and do 50. That's better. I can delete the extras. So I'm going to select these, hit delete. Okay. So those are all instances. So that way when I click on this first one, let's go edit poly, add an edit poly. And when we select it, the element mode, so it selects the whole thing, and I go rotate, you can see all the blinds rotate. Very useful. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off for now. I am going to create one more box to create the top part of this shutter box. Okay, let's go ahead and move it up. And let's set the value. So it's 4.554 inches. And this thing could be, it's probably going to be about 4, oh, it's not 4 feet, 4 inches by 3 inches. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so this is going to be blind box, a blind top, and let's select everything in my side view, except for I'm going to deselect my wall and deselect my window. So I just have the blinds and my blind top. Let's go to the materials. These are white. Blinds. Let's go ahead and increase the specular, pull it more into the white. These are pretty glossy. And hit apply. Okay, so now our blinds are done. Let's create some papers on the desk. First, I'm going to move this guy into the corner a little bit more. Grab him way back here. And I'm going to go to the create panel, plane, and draw a plane. Okay. Go and move him up. He's going to sit right on top of the wood. So something like that. Okay. So there's my first paper. I'll call it paper. And let's go and set the dimensions to 8.5 by 11. 8.5 inches by 11 inches. I'm going to rotate him. Maybe something like that. And position him more on top of the wood. Okay. So that's paper 1. In fact, paper 01. Let me hold down Shift, drag it over, make another copy. Paper 02. And let's move this something like that. Let's move it up a little bit. Sorry, I have to zoom out and find my... Just a little bit, so it's not interfering with the other paper. And let's go ahead and do paper 3. So I'm trying to make it look semi-messy. I hit Z for zoom extent, by the way, that's why it jumped. Move this one up a little bit. Maybe a little bit more. Okay. And of course I can just keep making papers. So maybe this one's going to be over here. It's like I was doing a bunch of research into something. That's what I'm going for. So the person who owns this desk is researching some ancient information that the government's been keeping secret. So he's got all these government files laying on his desk that he found. And they're just all over the place. Okay. That's looking pretty good. Now I can actually maybe grab one more and put it next. Well, do I want to grab one more? Let me just move this one over a little bit more. Like this. Actually, I'm going to undo that. I am going to create one more that's next to the keyboard. One that has maybe a government logo that I'll place on it, like a CIA logo. So this is going to go all the way down to the glass, which is the blue. Just like that. Okay, we're looking good. Maybe move this one up. Now, if I wanted to, I can come in, like, let's say this paper, and I'm going to add a few more segments. Okay, so I'm going to go to vertex mode, or sorry, I'm going to add an edit poly modifier, and I'm going to go to vertex mode, and I'm going to grab this vertex, and I'm going to turn on soft selection. So let me minimize this tab. Soft selection tab is now open. I'm going to check soft selection, and this gives me the ability to select more than one vertex, but at various different levels. So I'm going to dial this down. Red is 100% selected, all the way down to dark blue, which is 0% selected. Okay, so let me go, let's say something like this, and move it up. In fact, let me rotate it. In fact, actually, I'm going to undo that. I'm going to rotate it down. Move it up just a tad so it's not going through the desk. Okay. And that's how you can create various different bends and shapes into the paper fairly easily. Again, that's soft selection. So I'm going to minimize that tab. Okay, so we have some paper on our desk. Let's create a glass, a drinking glass. So I'm going to zoom in here and say, I'll create it, which side? I'll create it on this side. Okay, I'm going to go to the create panel, and this time I'm going to use splines. I'm going to do something different that we haven't done before, and that's I'm going to use a line tool and create the outline of a glass, just the right side outline. So I'm going to start with the base. I'm going to click, and this is the center point to the glass. I'm going to click out from the center to, let's say, right about there, and then I'm going to create the base height, and then I'm going to draw it all the way up. So maybe this is fairly tall glass, something like that. Now I'm going to create the lip of the glass. So I'm going to zoom in here. There we go. And bring it down. I'm holding down shift to draw straight lines, by the way. Okay, so I'm going to right click to finalize. I'm going to go to my modify panel. First, I'm going to set this vertex, make sure it's on which axis. So I'm going to copy this axis here, select this vertex, and paste it so they're both the same X position. Okay, so now that's our basic shape. I'm going to turn off edit mode so I can place it on my desk in my top viewport. It's probably a little too big, but we'll play with it. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the modify panel the modify panel. I went to the create panel. Let's add a modifier called lathe. And let's scroll down, lathe right here. And you can see here it automatically wrapped around. I'm going to set the align to minimum. You can play with these, center, max. See, center, minimum. Actually, I like center better. Okay, so there is my glass. I can position him down on top of the table, like that. Okay, so it's way too thin and needs a lot of work. And what's really cool is I can go into my line tool, go to vertex mode. I can even turn on the stack if I wanted to. Let's say I select these two vertices, right click and say smooth. And now I have this smooth dent in the base that's way too big. So I'm going to grab all these vertices, drag them down, drag them down, drag these guys way down, drag these guys out, maybe even drag, oops, gotta hold down control to grab more than one set, move these in a little bit. Now grab these. Okay, and the height is way too tall, so let's bring it down some, maybe about there, a little taller. Okay, that's looking a lot better. And the lip, let's actually go ahead and select these two vertices and see what happens when we add a smooth. Okay, that's too much. So let's undo that and right click and say, let's say Bezier. No. Let's go Bezier corner. So then I can play with these manually. I'm going to grab this tangent line and this tangent line. I'm going to roll over the center here. See the XYZ? If I click on the center, that gives me the ability to grab these tangent and move them on X and Y. Otherwise, if you're just clicked on one, it will only allow me to move it on one axis. So something like that. Maybe even pull it out a little bit more. Okay. Yeah, that's much better for the lip. Is there anything else? That's pretty much it. Okay, so I'm going to turn off vertex mode, go back to lathe, and you have lots of options here. You got start and end caps checked, direction of lathe, XYZ, how the output is. So you got mesh, patch, NURBS. I think mesh is the best result for this situation. I can even convert this to an edible poly now if I wanted to. I have, even if I didn't want it 360 degrees, I can decrease it. So that's really cool. 360 is good. And segments, I can increase it to make it smoother. So that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and throw a material on this. It's going to be a glass material. So I'm going to go find a blank material because it's going to be different from the glass I've used so far. This is my last blank material. I'm going to call this glass. And I'm going to drag and drop it onto my glass. Wait, cancel, sorry. I'm going to call this glass cup. And I'm just going to hit apply to selection. So let's go ahead and play with these settings. Specular level, of course. And opacity, let me just go to maps. Reflection and refraction. So I'm going to go to refraction and add a ray trace. And I can set it to refraction. And reflection, I can add another ray trace and set this one to reflection. Okay, and then I can jump up, decrease the opacity. And is there anything else I want to do? No, that's pretty much it. I could add a, under opacity, a fall off. And set this to Fresnel. Okay, so there's our glass. Let me just, this is going to probably take a minute to render, but let me test it. Yeah, I'm not going to wait around for this. Okay, got too much to do. All right, so we've got our glass, our papers now. Let's, oh, sorry, I hit the mic. Let's go ahead and play with, we need to actually apply a texture to each one of these. So just to show you, we are out of slots now. I've used them all up, but that's okay. I can actually just click on a material slot and say get material, and I can start with a new one. So let's say standard. So it doesn't get rid of that one. It just stores it somewhere else. And now I can actually apply a new material to, let's call this paper 1. Oops, paper 1. So with this thing selected, I can go apply to selection. And I'm just going to tint it a different color for right now, but actually I'm going to add a texture map or an image to it. So click OK. You close this out. And now if, again, let me actually reopen material library. If I wanted to find that material that was here before, I can select it, say get material, and look in my scene materials option. So they're all here. Everything I've used. And this is why we name things, so we can go find it quickly, just in case. Okay. You also have sample slots down here as well. That's actually what's in here. So I'm going to go ahead and close this for now. Close. Let's briefly go into Photoshop and apply a texture, or texture for the paper, and we're going to talk about applying the texture for the monitor. In fact, before I go into Photoshop, let's select the monitor. And you remember we added, go to material library. Let's see, where is this one? Is it this one right here? Yeah, Mac stand. So remember right here, this is the material slot for this object right here, or for the screen, so we can create the texture for that as well. So let me go ahead and close this, save 3D Studio Max, and jump into Photoshop. Okay, I need to create 2 documents, one for the monitor and one for the paper. So I'm going to go ahead and go File, New, 8.5 by 11. You can actually just choose US paper, sets it to 8.5 by 11. Resolution 300. I think that's going to be a little too high and increase render times too much to keep it at that res. So I can say 150 or even 72. I'll do 150. Click OK. And then I can come in here and design the paper one. Now, just as a side mark, I went to brandsoftheworld.com and typed in Central Intelligence Agency. Found this logo. And I'm going to click Start. I'm going to say, I agree. I'm not a robot. And download. Okay. There we go. It's going to start downloading. So while it's doing that, it's already done. Let me go ahead and go to my downloads folder. Create a new. downloads, and let me delete a few things in here now that I'm in here. All right, so here's my Illustrator file or EPS vector file that I just downloaded. So I can place this in here. Hit enter. Why did it disappear on me? Oops, I hit delete, sorry. Let me redo that. Enter, there we go. I can rasterize this so I can change its color. Well, that's fine for right now. And then I can just go through and start typing out random information, or I can go grab random information from another website. So anyway, once you're done laying out your page, making it look like a secret document or whatever you want to make it look like, I'm going to go ahead and go File, Save As. Make sure it's saving to my textures folder. I will call this one paper doc, and click Save. So that's my Photoshop file, and what I would do is create a group for page 1. Page 1. Okay, and then I would create another folder, page 2, and then I would design page 2. And then once I'm happy with all my designs, then I can file, file, save as, save each one as its own PNG or JPEG, whichever you prefer. So I'll call this paper 1. Save. And click OK. So now, again, jumping back to 3D Studio Max, go up to the paper, click the diffuse, go bitmap, and there was a paper 1 in here somewhere. There it is. Open. And again, it's already applied, so I just need to go to the top, turn it on. Now you can see here, there is an issue where the unwrapping is not right, so I'm going to come up to here with it selected and go to UVW Map. And I'm going to rotate it. So turn on my rotate snap, rotate it 90 degrees. Then I'm going to hit fit. And voila. There's the paper document. Then I'm going to come up to the screen one. So let's go ahead and go back to Photoshop. So that's the paper one. I'm going to go File, New, and create my monitor one. So I'm going to switch this one to film and video. And you can see here now it's set the resolution to 72. Let me look at resolutions for IMAX screen. So it's 2560 by 1440. So let me use that for my scale. 1440, and click OK. And so this is my new Max screen image, and that's probably good. Let me just, I don't know. Let me, I guess, put the Central Intelligence Agency on this as well. I haven't really thought out what textures I want to apply into this monitor yet. So let me drag and drop this in here as well. Let me scale it up and hit enter. Okay, and go File, Save. This I'll file save as a Photoshop file again. Call this computer mon for the monitor texture. Click Save, and then I'll save it as a PNG. PNG. Save. Click OK. So now I can jump back to Photoshop, or sorry, 3D Studio Max, and let me scroll down to the monitor, the Mac texture, and it's the blue one right here. You can see it's blue in this viewport. So I can click on that one, click the diffuse bitmap, computer monitor texture PNG, open, and go back up, turn it on. Now I would also want to apply this to probably the self-illumination. So I'm going to click here, bitmap, computer.png, open, and go back to the top. So now I've applied it to self-illumination. Let me dial it up. And there we have it. Okay, so I finished texturing some elements and added some sticky notes. I'll show you the Photoshop files for these here in a sec, but basically they're just old government documents, like top secret documents. And then I threw some images up on the monitor, and then I added some sticky notes. The sticky notes are just a plane with an edit poly modifier. So if you go to the edit poly modifier, I turned on soft selection, and I used it, and I just selected a vertice and would move it. Okay, and that's what I did with all these to create a different look for each one. So let me turn that off. And then I have a UVW map on it just so that the texture maps on it correctly, because it's an exactly 3x3 inch square. Okay. So those are my sticky notes. Let's see the Photoshop files. Okay, so the computer monitor, let's see, let's start with, I took an image of the actual, I don't know what this is called, toolbar, and I just cut it out and put it there. And then I had the background image cut out. Okay. Then I added let's see, I think it's this one. I took a print screen of my Google Chrome browser, emptied it out, and just put in TrapCG right here. And then what I did is I added a rock texture inside of it, and I used a mask to control what is visible. So when you add a mask, you just click on a layer, and this button right here adds a mask. Now the way masks work is black and white. Black is hide and white is reveal. So if I go to my paintbrush tool, and right now I'm on black, if I start painting on this, it'll start disappearing. I'm going to undo that, and if I go to white, it'll start revealing. Okay, so that's how I framed it. Then I added the TrapCG logo in here. It was a vector from Illustrator. I dropped the opacity to 81 and changed it to multiply, so that way it would fit. And then I also added, I double clicked on the layer, and it opens up the layer styles. I added a bevel emboss, chiseled hard, depth at 100, size at 4, played with the lighting angle. I made sure it was set to down, and I added a little bit of texture to break it up a little bit on the edges. Okay, so that's the logo. Looks like it's embedded into rock. And then I have, let's see here, what else? These others are just images I added to the Google Chrome browser. And each one, this was actually just a print screen of my Google Chrome and what I was doing. And these are images I just crammed into the Google Chrome browser as well. Now, I do not support Nazism, so don't flip out and think, oh, TrapCG supports Nazis. Nope. This is actually part of a story that we're developing right now, and we figured we'd start getting you guys all into the idea before we actually reveal what the story is. And so this is just a snippet, not even going to tell you what it is. Just use your imagination. Maps, hieroglyphs, the Nazis in the Antarctic, some crazy stuff, I tell you. Anyway, so that's how I did the desktop. Now the paper docs, I just found some old things online for like top secret documents, and then like this one, I just threw some images on top of it of the Nazi Bell project, and I used the masking again to make it look faded. And the others are just literally a single image in each folder. Okay. So then the last but not least is my sticky notes. I literally used my Wacom tool, and I went to pencil, and I just sketched out notes. I just wrote out blah, blah, blah. Okay. So that's how I wrote out the notes. I'm going to go ahead and close all this. No. Okay, so now, last but not least, let's model out a book, a hardcover book, to give it a little bit more modeling skill. So let's go up to Create Panel. I'm going to start with a box and click and drag. This will be the last thing that we model in this tutorial, and then the rest you guys should be able to add on your own. I mean, the tools should be finally starting to sink in now to where you don't need me to hold your hand. All right, so let me position this on top of the desk like we've done everything else before. Let's see, top of the desk is there. What is this? Why is this not on the top of the desk? Let's move this down. Okay, so back to my book. All right, Alt W. Let me switch to modify panel. Call it book _01. And let's go, let's say 6 inches by 3 inches. Actually, let's do 4 inches. 4 inches. There we go. And 1 inch for the thickness. I just made that up, by the way. So there's my book. We're done. I'm kidding. Now, that's pretty much if you did a soft copy book, you can get away with doing something like that. But we are actually going to do a hard copy. So let's go ahead and jump into Edit Poly Modifier. Edit Poly. Let's go. I'm going to minimize soft selection. Minimize Edit. Open up the selection tab. Go to Edge. I'm going to hit F4 to turn on wireframe mode, or you can come up here and turn on wireframe mode right here, Edge Faces. Let's go ahead and select this edge, Alt-R on the keyboard, or ring right here. We'll ring around it. Go ahead and hit Connect. Set it to 2. Let's spread it apart. Oops, let's move. Something like that. That's looking good. Oops. Yeah, that's good. Let me hit the check mark. Okay, so let me create the back side of the book real quick. So I'm going to select this edge right here, Alt-R. Again, it's just ring, connect, and I'm going to set the pinch down to 0 for right now. I'm going to slide it to my left and pinch them together. Let's go something like that and slide it. We got to pinch it a little bit more. And slide. Tends to separate a little bit when you slide it. So let's go right about there. Maybe a little bit more. Whoops. Control Z. A little bit more in. Something like that. Check mark. Okay. So I'm going to do one more edge. Click this, ring, and connect. Set everything down to its base. So 1, 0, 0. Check mark. So I'm going to go to vertex mode. And let me go to the front view. I'm going to drag select over these 2 vertices and drag select over these 2 vertices. Use my scale tool, scale them down a little bit. It's probably too much. Something like that. P in the keyboard for perspective. Z to zoom extent. Okay. So let's go ahead and go to polygon mode. Select this polygon, this one, and this one. And we're also going to select these 2. Forgot to select them on this side. Okay, we're going to do inset. Actually, no, we're going to do extrude. So let's go ahead and do the extrude menu, dial it up. Not going the direction I want it to, so let's switch it to local norms. And let's dial it down. That's probably good right there. So I'm going to hit the check mark. I'm going to go into edge mode, select this edge and go ring, so ring all the way around it. And I'm going to go connect, and I'll connect 3 times. That should be good enough. I'm going to hit the check mark. I'm going to go to vertex mode, go back to my front view. F on the keyboard, by the way, or click front here. And I'm going to drag select over these vertices. And I'm actually going to turn on soft selection. Turn it on, and I'm going to set it to 0. And then just manually dial up how far it's reaching. So something like that. Go back to my move tool and drag it out. And it's not dragging out well enough. So let's play with the pinch. See what that does. Nope. It's a little bit better. Not 100%. So what I'm going to do is turn off soft selection. I'm going to grab this vertex and just move them back a little. Same thing with these. There, that's good. Okay, so now we're getting our book going. It's looking good. I'm not going to plan on opening it, so I don't have to worry about deleting the polygons in the inside and doing all that again, or detaching them, I should say. I'm just making sure. All right, so last but not least, let's add a little bit of chamfer on this guy. Actually, I don't think I really need to. It's looking fine. Okay, so let's go ahead and add the unwrap UVW modifier. And let's turn off map scenes. I don't want it displayed. And I'm going to go to polygon mode. I'm actually going to isolate this guy. Isolate selection. I'll hit Z on the keyboard to zoom extend. Okay. So let's select. I'm going to drag select over these polygons here, and these here, and these as well. Okay. So I want to make sure I'm connecting everything around. All right. In fact, actually, let me just go into point-to-point seams. Let's create a seam here. Seam here. Right-click, remember, deactivates creating a seam. Okay, those seams are set. I want to set a seam here. Actually, not there. I want to set it right here in the center. Same thing with this side. And let's set a seam here as well. In fact, I'm going to go all the way through there. Let's do that to this side. Do it to the seam on the bottom. Okay. Last but not least, let's do a seam around the paper. There we go. Okay, let's try that. I'm actually going to say grow to seams. And why did it grow into here? Okay. We need to seam off this section. So I'm going to undo that. Oops. Yeah. I don't want it growing into this section here. Okay, so now let's go ahead and expand to seams. And why is it still, let me undo that. Let me just click off of, go back to polygon. Okay, select, grow seams, and it's still growing into it. Ugh. Vertex mode, point-to-point seams. There. That one's covered. That one's good. Okay, so again, polygon mode, select the top, grow to pelt seams, and let's go pelt. It's going to pull up the dialog. I'm just going to say start pelt, click commit. I'm going to go select, tools. We're going to do relax by polygon angles. Click relax. Okay, so it looks like it's still kind of a mess. Let's see what's going on here. Yeah, I'm getting overlapping polys. So what we need to do is I forgot to add some more seams. Seam here. And a seam here. Probably one on the back side. Well, maybe. Let's try that. Let's actually go back to selecting. Let me turn off edge to point seam. Select this. Expand to selection and pelt. Start pelt. Click commit. Start relax. All right, there we have it. Much better. Much cleaner. Let me go into element mode so I can pull it off. And it looks like I might still have some kind of issue going on over here. Let me turn off element mode. Yep. So I forgot to do that to the bottom as well. So this is the problem. This is me showing you how to problem solve, because I've actually not done this part of the tutorial so far. So you're seeing how I actually unwrap my stuff, pelt, start pelt, commit, start relax, and I think we're good finally. Yeah, it looks like everything's clean now. No overlapping geometry. Cool beans. So that's the outer edges. Let's go ahead and select in here, expand, pelt, start pelt, commit, start relax, stop. And there's the paper. And what do we have left? We have these edges here. I'll just pelt both, or pelt one at a time. Pelt, start pelt, commit, start relax, drag it off to the side. And last but not least, pelt, start pelt, commit. Whoops, I'm going to undo that. Because I accidentally did that, it created some extra seams in here, so I need to get rid of them. I'm going to hold down Alt and click. There we go. So now I can go to polygon again. Actually, I need to turn off seams. Expand pelt, start pelt. Okay, so now I'm going to select everything, pack it, and it automatically scales everything to each other. Okay, so there's that one. Where's the other one? Way over here. Okay. Let's move them. Now, what I'm thinking is I actually want to reattach these to the top of the book. So I'm going to move them to near where they need to be. And I'm going to go to edge mode. Let's see what edges. Okay. So I'm going to select these edges here, all 4 of them. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say stitch selected. Voila. And I'll do that to this side as well. If you're running an older version of Max, you might not be able to do that. And if you are, you're going to actually have to do this. You're going to have to go to vertex mode, select a vertex, say target weld. And you're going to have to weld the vertices together. Now you could go view, let's see, display, where is it? Show vertex connections. Is it really not going to show me? View. Interesting. There used to be a mode in here where I can actually see vertex, show edge distortion, selected faces. Sorry, I'm just looking. There used to be a tool that allowed me to show the actual vertex numbers. Let's see, it's under preferences. Nope. I thought it would show vertex connection would be it, but I guess I'm wrong. Okay, so basically you would have to figure out which vertex is connected to which vertex. Oh, there we go. There's the numbers. So again, you just target weld, right click, target weld, and click and drag, and it welds them together. So that's the old school way. Sorry, it took me a sec to remember how to do that. Let's see, select, right click, and stitch selected. What the? Boom. And I might need to relax this again, just to be on the safe side. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that's the elements. If I want to see the checkered pattern on the book, there you have it. Okay, let me check which side. This is the front facing, right, or the top of the book up here. So let me go to my free transform tool, rotate this into position. And let's scale this up as big as I can get it. And scale this up as big as I can get it. Okay. Still not quite rotated flat. There you have it. Let me actually go end isolation. Yeah, so that is the top of the book. So of course you would go Tools, Render UV Template. I'm going to do a normal 2048 by 2048 Render UV Template. And of course I will save this. I already created one earlier on accident. So UV book template, save. Oops, let me change the format to a JPEG. Save. Click OK. So that's the UV template for the book. Close this. Now you can take that into Photoshop and texture it like we've done everything else. I'm not going to demonstrate that again. But because of the way we unwrap this, you can actually go under the corners now and give it some rough looking edges. I'm going to go ahead and close this. And I'm going to duplicate this book. Hold down Shift, drag it over. Book. Did I really name this called Boo? Book 2. And let's go back to this one and rename it Book, not Boo. And let's bring it up. Oops. Just going to place one sitting on top of the other. Maybe offset it just a bit. Grab both of them. Rotate them around. And move them. Okay. And one last thing. I'm going to go back into UV template. I almost forgot. Open UV editor. Let me make sure I don't have this upside down. Okay, I don't. Good. Whew. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close that and save this and go ahead and texture. I'm actually going to call it good for this tutorial. And in the next tutorial, we're going to pick up with lighting and rendering and maybe even finish it with animation and be done with it. We'll see, depending on how long it takes to go through rendering and lighting. And like I said, take your book into Photoshop and texture it, and you should be good. So let's go ahead and save.